Here's a question I get asked often. Am I the toxic one? And while in some cases that question is prompted from years of gaslighting, other times it's because you're sensing you may not be as innocent as you think. And while it is tempting to write it off as some terrible trigger, one of my favorite scriptures reminds us, "For if anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor, for each one will have to bear his own load." Well, hey, my friend, my name is Kris Reece, and I want to welcome you back to another edition of the Building Faith podcast, where it is my hope to bring you biblical solutions to life's tough challenges. So, hey, if you are not already subscribed, would you go ahead and hit that subscribe and notification button? The truth is, many toxic relationships have more than one person contributing. There's a bit of a tango taking place, and it's making for one very ugly dance. And there's a difference between struggling with things in relationship and being a bad person. Look, we all have things that we need to work on, but there's also this fine line between broken and bad. So how do you know how big of a part you're playing in that toxic tango? So here are 16 questions that you can ask to see if you are contributing to the problem more than you think. Question number 1. Do I recognize the areas that I need to work on and seek help? Or do I quickly defend myself and maybe even blame others? It can be tempting to defend and deflect, but that's only going to serve to deteriorate the relationship. Question number 2. Do I take action to correct my problem areas? Or do I justify my behavior, especially if it's triggered by the other person? Question number 3. Do I go to the Lord and godly counsel when my emotions are a mess? Or do I rely on others to make me feel better, validated, confident, happy, understood, etc.? If your hope is more in the people that you're with than in God, you're going to put pressure on a relationship that it can't handle. Question number 4. Do I assume responsibility for my actions and reactions? Or do I think, if they would just change? Relying upon the actions of others for your well-being is treading on very thin codependent ice. Question number 6. Do I speak the truth in love and allow room for any outcome? Or do I get upset when people don't take my advice or suggestions? If you're unable to communicate with love and truth, it's likely that you're expressing yourself in a rather passive-aggressive manner. Question number 7. Do I communicate with directness and clarity? Or do I expect others to read my mind? God calls for us to say what we mean and mean what we say, but indirect behavior can be another form of passive aggression. And the result sometimes can be outbursts, withdrawing, stonewalling, avoiding, all of which are manipulation. Question number 8. Do I handle anger in a godly and healthy manner? Or do I have regular angry outbursts that I blame others for? Your response is your responsibility. And while anger is a God-given emotion, it is not appropriate to express it in a destructive manner. Yes, someone's actions can precipitate anger within you, but it's up to you on how to handle that anger. Remember, you can't pull out of you what's not already in you. Question number 9. Do I handle rejection, disappointments, and disagreements with grace? Or do I fall apart? Automatic reactions like crying, angry outbursts, passive-aggressive comments are typically a sign of someone who has not mastered their emotions. So, when disappointment and disagreements take place, whatever is repressed often bubbles to the surface. Question number 10. Do I accept constructive criticism and complaints well? Or do I need others to tell me what I need to hear? Truth tellers are often a threat to a toxic person's self-delusion. If people can't point out your flaws and your blind spots without some negative reaction, you might be more toxic than you think. Question number 11. Do I respect others' boundaries? Or do I only get upset when they don't respect mine? Question number 12. Do I set boundaries to protect myself, or do I attempt to control others with rules disguised as boundaries? Question 13. Do I communicate my feelings and concerns quickly and gently, or do I tolerate toxic behavior until I can't take it anymore and then I explode or break down? Question number 14. Do I quickly forgive and then extend grace when needed? Or do I always keep score? If you're able to recount and recite past offenses to support new ones, or the things that you've done for that person versus what they've done for you, you might not be as forgiving as you think. Question number 15. Do I give out of a cheerful heart? Or do I give to get? Or do I give out of negative obligation? And question number 16. Do I listen with the goal to understand? Or do I listen just long enough, if at all, to interject my thoughts and my feelings? Poor listening skills can erode a relationship because there's no relating there. Listening is crucial for understanding, not just hearing. And I know you want to be understood, and it's likely the other person does too. So, how'd you do? If you're like most of us, mere mortals, you're likely seeing some toxic traits that you're not proud of. And I get it. The truth is, everyone can have toxic traits in a relationship. It doesn't make you a bad person, but it does mean that you got some work to do. And I want to encourage you to take your traits to God in prayer and repent. And also consider repenting to the other person, as long as doing so is not going to put you in harm's way. And no, feeling like a heel and not wanting to hear their lectures is not considered harm's way. Your job is to allow God to change you and continue to pray for them. And you may also realize that you need some help in this journey, because rarely can we do anything significant or difficult without support. So I want you to consider seeking wise counsel. If you need a counselor, we've teamed up with Faithful Counseling, and they can pair you with a right counselor for you. And I will go ahead and include a link in the description section below, and using that link will actually get you 10% off your first month counseling. Now that you know some signs of a toxic person, you're going to want to learn the 3 signs that God is trying to remove someone from your life. And to find out, go ahead and check out this episode right here. And do you need some help dealing with difficult people? I want to invite you to grab a copy of my free Toxic People Survival Guide. I'll go ahead and include a link in the description section below.